Welcome to the Rodeo Kids Podcast. I'm your host, Marie Rorda, and it has been a minute. We have had Isaiah Ellis, the Rodeo Kids team ambassador. He has been kind of taking the lead on the Rodeo Kids Podcast for the last couple months as my husband and I welcomed our first child into the world. Little Flynn Michael Rorda joined us on March 21st at 4:05 in the morning. And we are just smitten and so happy to have him in our lives. And we want to give Isaiah and the rest of the Rodeo Kids ambassadors who took over the podcast while we were on our own little version of maternity leave. They did a fantastic job. They had some great guests. If you haven't listened to the podcast recently, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to the kinds of questions that these kids ask and the answers that these professionals have. But I think as you listen to these podcasts, the professionals, you can always learn so much from them. They've been there. They've done that. They know what's going on. They know how to help you. They've been through the trials and the struggles. So when we listen to their advice, it can help us navigate them better ourselves. It doesn't mean that just because we heard how somebody else did it that we're going to avoid it. It just means that we might have a better idea as to how to navigate it. And that's the key, guys. We're not going to, I saw a quote today and it was talking about having an umbrella doesn't stop the rain. It just protects you while you're in the rain. And that's what God does for us. And that's what this kind of advice does for us. When we get to have these guests and these people share their stories, the messes that they turned into messages and their tests that they turned into testimonies, it just helps us learn how they're our umbrella. Their stories are our umbrella to help us get through those rainy days. So while you're listening to these, especially the parents and coaches who join us to listen to the Rodeo Kids podcast, listen to the kinds of questions that these kids are asking, the advice that they're seeking, and maybe the holes that they're missing. You know, when we hear youth speak, sometimes they know exactly the questions to ask, and that'll give us insight into what they're feeling, what they're needing, what they feel like they're missing in their performance or in their confidence or just in their mindset, whatever it may be. But other times it's kind of a clue as to what we think they might be missing, the questions that they should be asking or knowledge that we think they have that maybe they don't. And that's where we get to listen to their responses and what they're asking and what they're saying, and kind of analyze that as well so we can get to know these kids better because they're our future and we want to do everything that we can to make sure that they have the umbrella so they can get through the storms faster, smarter, wiser, and with more tools than what we have in the past. That's the goal. And I think that's the goal that God has for us too, is to continue to grow. And we do that by training up the children in the way that they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. But sometimes we just have to know what they're missing. So I just want to encourage you to listen to both sides of the story and really kind of analyze it from both perspectives, both the question asker and the interviewee. Let me share a little bit about today's podcast. We have someone joining us who is going to talk a little bit about some money. Actually, she's going to talk all about money because we all know that money is important. We have to have money in order to be able to continue the lifestyles that we love, whether it's a lifestyle or it's just what you do and who you are, or maybe it's just a hobby. How we manage our money is extremely important so that we can not only do it in the short term, but so we can continue in the long term. So today we have financial advisor Lexie Meyer joining us. This is a recording of a podcast we did, so you'll hear some really good questions from a couple of parents as well as some of the kids who joined the podcast. So it's just a really good thing to listen to give you some insight, some suggestions on how you can manage your money to prepare yourself for the short term and yourself and your kids for the long term. We highly recommend, especially if you have kids who are of the age to start managing some of their own money and learning some strategies, and you feel like, they're approaching their teenage years where they're going to be getting their own checkbook and starting to pay for some of their own entry fees. This would be an awesome podcast for you to sit down and listen to together so that you can come up with a plan and get some ideas as to how you can make rodeo sustainable for a long, long time. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Lexie Meyer, and we just hope that you learn a little bit from today, and we encourage you, if you do, please share with someone else, tell your friends, tell your family members, talk about it around the campfire at the high school rodeo, and let them know about RodeoKids.com and what we have going on here with the Rodeo Kids Podcast. Now, let's get started.
World changer, history maker. World changer, history maker.
Welcome to the RodeoKids.com podcast, where we empower youth to be their best selves through the values and traditions of the rodeo and Western lifestyle. First, let's say a little prayer real quick. Money is in the Bible too, and it's important to let God lead us in that way. So we'll say a prayer real quick. Lord, thank you so much for bringing us together tonight, and thank you for the wonderful blessings that you've bestowed upon us. And we just pray that tonight we learn how to take better care of those and be better stewards of the finances that you have given us, and the priorities and the responsibilities and the talents and gifts, Lord, and they all come together. And when we learn how to take care of those and we prepare ourselves, our brains and our bodies, then we prepare ourselves to walk in your path better, Lord. So just help us to learn everything that we can learn today, so we can continue to prepare ourselves to be your vessel and to walk in the path you've prepared for us and the purpose that you have for us. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Lexie, go ahead and take it over.
Awesome. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen here. I'm not sure if it'll let me.
Let me make sure that you can. Multiple participants. It should let you.
Okay, let's give it a try now. Okay. Are you guys able to see that screen?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Is it still showing on your end?
Yep.
Okay. So, super excited to be with you guys here tonight and talk a little bit about money. I know Camry has put on a lot of really good monthly activities for you guys to focus on, which helps create well-rounded individuals, not only in the arena, but outside of the arena. And tonight is really one of those aspects that not only ties very heavily into rodeoing and all of the challenges and finances that come along with it, but also how can we start out in a good note when we start earning money. So excited to be here because money gives us the ability to live day to day, but it also gives us the opportunity to enjoy the hobbies that we do, which is rodeo. And I think we all might know that rodeo is not cheap. So it's really important to have a well-balanced financial plan. So just a little bit about me. Besides being a financial planner, I am a business owner, but I'm also a farm wife to my husband, Matt. So like Cammie had said, Matt grew up doing high school rodeo, Wisconsin high school rodeo. He still team ropes and trains and sells horses today. I'm a mom to two little boys, Shiloh and Stratton, and we live in Eastern Iowa. And so what is a financial planner and what do I do? I help people understand what to do with their money. So someone would come to me if they want help, guiding them in a strong financial future. So today I'm just going to talk to you about what are some steps that you guys can take over the course of the next couple of years and through adulthood to help prepare you for a strong financial future so that you guys can continue to do the rodeo and go to all the events that you want to go to. So when I always tell people when it comes to what I do, I probably will guess that a lot of you guys have mentors or coaches in the rodeo arena. They might say, hey, you guys are doing really well riding, or, you know what, get your tip down on your swing a little bit more. Think of me as a financial coach. So I would, hey, you know, you're well with your money in this space, but maybe let's do things a little differently in these areas. When it comes to the starting point of financial planning, the first step is that we have to earn money. So there's a couple different ways that you can go out and you can make money. The most popular one is going to be exchanging work and or time for money. So this would be like babysitting on the weekends, through high school. Like maybe Zach, I think you said that you work at a feed store. So that would be one way that you can go and earn some money over time. Eventually you're going to get a career, but most people go out and exchange their time and work resources for dollars. Another way to earn money is going to be selling something. So when I was in high school, I think I had a couple litters of puppies. So I sold some puppies to earn some money, and then also can be rewarded for money. So a lot of you guys might go out to barrel races or enter in jackpots, where if you do well, you can be rewarded with money. So there is a lot of different ways that we can make money. But once we start earning our dollars, that is where we have to figure out what to do with them. So when it comes to where we are earning those dollars, there are 4 different things that we can do with our money. We can spend it, we can save it, we can invest it, or we can give it. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into all of those, but just remember that there's 4 different things. Spending money. So when we spend money, we are managing the money that we have to cover what we want and what we need. So we may spend things on like food and groceries, new iPhone, hanging out with friends, hobbies, so rodeo, entry fees, everything that goes with horses. We are really spending our dollars on things and experiences. The next one, save, is where we are going to build up savings today to make sure that we're covering life's goals and surprises to be able to afford the lifestyle we want in the future. So we might save our dollars to buy newer things, save for better experiences, or even save for unexpected expenses. Next is invest. Investing, when we invest money that we earn, investing is a delayed gratification. So when we save your money and put it away for a long period of time, you can go and invest your money so that you will have more in the future. So we're going to put our dollars away so that they will be increase and be more in the future. And then the last one is give. So giving is just using your money to help others. So we can give to friends to help them out. We can give to a church, a school, or a charity. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have had to do school or event fundraisers throughout the year, but people are willing to give up money that they could have spent to otherwise help someone. So we're going to take a look at those quickly in action. So we're going to pretend if you had $200 per month and we went through those 4 options, what would that look like? So the first option says, hey, if we have $200 per month and we earn $200 a month for the next 12 months or for a year, and we spent all of it, after a year, we would have $0, but we probably would have a lot of really cool things. So one month you might say, hey, I want to buy those new pair of boots. Next month, hey, you know what? I want to buy a puppy. Anything throughout the year. At the end, $0, but you have a lot of cool stuff. Option 2 would be you could save it. So you could say, hey, every month I earn $200. I'm going to put it away for the next year. By the end of the year, I will have $2,400. Option 3 would be invest it. So you could invest the $200 per month, stash it away for 12 months. At the end of the year, you will not have $2,400, but you will have $2,500. And then the last one is give it away. So every month you give the $200 away. At the end, you have $0, but you probably helped a lot of people and they probably appreciated it. And so there's good and bad with all of those, pros and cons. And the goal is to do a combination of them all. Starting out, you might not give $200 away every single month, but over time, how do we make sure that we're kind of doing a combination of all of those, since there are good and bad that comes with them? So if we were to kind of break it down and dive a little bit deeper into spending and savings, has anyone ever done budgeting before or has heard of the 50-30-20 budgeting rule? Okay, so the purpose and importance of this is because we have to make sure that we have a well-balanced spending habit. If we build our lifestyle to where we're spending all of our money on needs, so debt payments, bills, groceries, it doesn't allow us to do the things that we want and enjoy, such as rodeo, right? If we have to throw everything at debt, we probably don't have a lot of money for entry fees. Goes the other way around too. If we spend way too much money on things we don't really need, that's where we can get stressed when we don't have the money to cover the costs that we have. So in a budgeting rule, how that works is that each month when you earn money, you're going to set aside a certain amount that goes towards your savings, your wants, and your needs. So ideally, we want to see 20% of your money that you earn go towards the future or savings. So you may put money in an emergency fund. Long-term might be a retirement account. The goal is to make sure that you save first and then spend your money on needs and wants later. After that, we want about half of our dollars to go towards our needed expenses. Those are going to be like food, groceries, transportation, and gas. If you guys have trucks and trailers, any other payments that you guys might have, we want about 50% of our money going towards that. And then the last one is going to be wants. So wants are going to be about 30%. And these are going to be things such as subscriptions. You guys might have Netflix, Spotify, any entertainment, restaurant meals, and then also travel and hobbies as well. When I break down the difference between needs and wants, if you can honestly say, I can't live without it, that would be like a needed item. If you could say, hey, probably could do without this, such as a Netflix, maybe just not watch Netflix, that's kind of falls in more of the wanted camp or wanted to spend on. Any questions around the 50-30-20 budgeting rule?
Is that for the month or for each paycheck? Do you do that by usually?
So it depends. We have some people that do it each paycheck. It's just easier for them. Every time money hits their bank account, they just kind of earmark it towards where it needs to go. Some people know what they make a month and they just say, hey, every single month I'm going to put X amount in savings and this much is going to go towards needed expenses. So that really falls into preference, but that's a really good question.
Thank you.
And that's a really good, like she said, a good question, Isaiah, and something to think about, like, as you guys move into the future to get a job. Like, I'm self-employed, so I don't have a guaranteed amount for a paycheck every month. So it's going to be variable from one month to the next. And you guys might have, during the summer months, you might be going to a lot of rodeos and you're not putting in as many hours for work. So it might be variable throughout the year. Even you might say, from during the school year when I'm not going to as many rodeos, or in the winter months, I'm going to make sure that I put, X amount towards it. And then that way you've got kind of a little cushion going into the summer too. But that's like the variable of it. But as you think about your future job and what you want to do too, starting these habits now is going to be a lot easier. Like, I did not start this. I don't do this personally, and there are things that I should do. And I wish that I would have started it at your age so that I got into that habit, regardless of what kind of job I had.
Yep, that's a really good point, Cami, that sometimes people's income fluctuates just on seasons. Sometimes too, expenses fluctuate on seasons. So you guys might even go to more rodeos in the summer months that are going to take up more expenses on that front. But I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people, they spend their money on needs and wants, and then at the end of the month, they try to figure out how to save. They're going to say, I'm going to spend my money, and then whatever I have left over, that's what I'm going to save. And really, sometimes we have to shift it. We have to train ourselves to, no, I'm going to put money away first, and then what I have left over goes into what I'm going to spend. And that helps us be able to make sure that we are balancing those two items and our spending doesn't get too out of control. But any other questions just on that budgeting rule at all? Okay. So the other thing that we talk about around just savings is of that 20% that we need to save, the goal is that first and foremost, we want to make sure that we have an emergency fund. So an emergency fund creates a financial buffer that will keep you afloat in time of need without having to rely on credit cards, high interest loans. And it's really important if you have debt or other really important fixed expenses. So there's a lot of reasons to have an emergency fund, but some of those might be unexpected medical expenses that you have to take care of. If you lose a job or switch jobs, there might be some time where you go without a paycheck. If your truck breaks down, we got to make sure we have money to fix those, any home repairs, but then also just giving you peace of mind. So a good rule of thumb is to have about 3 months of expenses set aside in an emergency fund. So if you guys know, hey, I'm roughly spending about $500 per month in all of my expenses, then we just want to make sure that we have 3 months of that set aside. So now we kind of dive a little bit deeper into the financial conversation here, where we look at the difference between saving and investing. Are any of you on this call familiar with the difference between saving and investing? Perfect. Nice. So the difference between saving and investing is that once we have 3 months of expenses set aside in an emergency fund, that's where we want to look at whether to keep saving or if we should start investing our dollars. So how the two are different is that with saving, how that works is that we are going to set money aside in safe accounts where it is unlikely to lose value. In exchange, that your money won't go down, your money will not grow very large over time. So this would be as if you were to put money into a piggy bank, where if you put $100 in and you go back in 5 years, you're probably still going to have $100. Same with a bank account. You might have 500 sitting in the bank. It's not going to go down to 400 unless you pull money out. It's very relatively safe. So saving accounts allow you to take money in and out. And money that you put into these accounts are great for short-term expenses or emergencies. Whereas on the flip side to that, investing your money means putting them into an account where you're taking the risk that you could lose your money in exchange for the likelihood that you will earn more of a return on what you invest. So for example, investing is where you could put $100 in an account. And then if you were to come back in 5 years, that $100 might now be $200 or $300. And so investing is putting money aside for longer term things. So like retirement, college tuition, or a new home you want in the future, with the goal of having your dollars grow and work for you.
A new horse, a new saddle.
Yep. A new trailer, that's a big one. We hear a lot of people say for those.
Yeah, especially for those of you who are going to college rodeo, a truck and a trailer, entry fee money for college rodeos, food, all of those things. College rodeo is not necessarily cheap. It's a great time and it's a great investment in your education for your future by the networking and the people you're going to meet, but it is not really financially the greatest return.
What's something you would recommend investing into?
Yeah, so there are a couple different options. A lot of times when you invest your money, you would put your dollars into an account to where you could buy portions of companies. So like a big popular one would be like John Deere. You could say, hey, I want to put $100 in this account and I want to own a portion of John Deere. So then what happens is that when John Deere as a company does really good, your money is going to go up. But if John Deere has a really hard time selling a lot of tractors for the year and they're not doing so well, your $100 might go down to 80. And so that is why investing can be riskier, because you're going to see your dollars go up and down based on how well a company performs that you invest in.
Okay.
So that is why we like to see investing for more long-term goals versus short-term, because we don't want you to put money into an investment account and need the money 2 days from now and have it go backwards on you. And so there's different accounts that we help people set up to figure out, hey, what type of item do you want to save for, and what account makes the most sense for that? Does that answer your question, Eve?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. That was a good one too. Any other questions between the difference on the two?
Well, like when it comes to investing, I know a lot of kids, because I don't know how easy it is for kids to invest in like stocks and stuff. But even like if you invest in a horse to resell, the risk is that your horse gets hurt, that, something happens to it or something like that. So there's a risk that you might not get your money back. But if you spend the time and, essentially put that in this, your time is where you're going to get your money and stuff back. Is that, Lexie, I'll let you explain that better.
Yeah. So like for instance, my husband, so they buy horses throughout the year, and they might buy a horse for, let's say, $5,000. They'll put 30 days riding on it. So that's their time and their investment into the horse. And then if they go to sell it after a month, potentially they might sell it for $4,000 and not get their $5,000. So that's a risk that they have to take to say, hey, we may not get what we bought this horse for. Or they potentially could sell it for $10,000, where it's double what they paid for. And so that's with investing, where it's like you never know which way it's going to go. But most of the time when you're able to invest your dollars or put a lot of time into training a horse, the goal is to make sure that you can sell it or earn more than what you've paid for it.
Yeah. And if that's a route that you guys like to go or are interested in going, the thing to remember with that is that your time is valuable. It's like Lexie was saying, if you buy one for 5,000 and you think, oh, well, I sold it for 6,000, I made $1,000. Well, how much time did you invest and what's your time worth? If your time's only worth like $10 an hour or even $2 an hour at that rate, then sure, you made money. But if you value your skills, then you hopefully are gonna, like, if you think about how much feed it costs, and how much hay it was and how much your time's worth, then you're going to want to make, $2,000 on that horse to make a profit. So that's just something to keep in mind too.
Yeah. And that exercise that Camry had you guys go through, if that's a route you guys want to go down, would be perfect to look at, hey, how much money am I putting into the horse? So if I bought it for 5,000, but I have to feed it for a month, if I have to do any unexpected vet bills that came up, that will help you determine, hey, how much did this horse actually cost me? All in, including all expenses. So that would be a really good thing to refer back to if you guys filled it out.
Yeah. How much is your break-even point where you cover your costs and your time? And then how much is it where I actually make a profit?
Okay. So now I've got a fun question for you guys. Would you rather have $1 million cash right now? So I give you $1 million cash. Or would you rather start with 1 penny that doubles every day for the next 30 days?
Gentry, go ahead.
Which one did you want?
I would rather double my penny because I actually have done the math on this before, and I would rather double my penny.
Same.
Love it. Okay. All right, so let's see what happens. So if I give you $1 million cash today, you can go out and you can do what you want with $1 million. But if I give you 1 penny today that doubles every day, this is what we get at the end of 30 days. So Day 1, you start with a penny. Day 2, you have 2 pennies. Day 3, that 2 turns to 4, 4 turns to 8, and so on. So by the time we get to day 30, instead of $1 million, you will have roughly about $5.3 million. Crazy, right?
Yes.
So that is something, it's not something where we're all going to start with a penny today and May 1st, we'll all be millionaires, but it does educate us around the importance of what compounding interest is and how investing our dollars for those long-term goals can help our dollars work for us and earn interest over time. So Gentry, you were right. So what is compound interest? Compound interest is exponential growth where interest or money is earned based on the beginning amount plus whatever interest has been accumulating over time. So you might have heard of the saying, smaller sooner is better than larger later. This is the case when it comes to how money grows over time. So the sooner you save, it also will give you the option to spend more down the road. So what I mean by that, I'm not sure if you guys can, hopefully you guys can see this little chart here. But what this shows is different ages at which you can start investing if you were to start investing your money, what it would take to get $1 million by the time you turn 65. So if you started investing your money at age 25, and you put $381 a month into an investment account, by the time you're 65, so in 40 years, you would have put in $182,000, so the dark blue, and your money would have grown by over $800,000, which is the light blue. But if we delay that 10 years, so instead of starting at 25 and we started at 35, to get that same $1 million, we would have to contribute $821 a month. So we would have had to put more money in and our dollars would earn less for us to still reach that 1 million. Same with 45. If you started at 55 and still wanted $1 million, you would have to put over $5,000 in per month and you would have contributed about 700,000 and the account would have only grown by 300,000. And so this is a huge thing when we're young, is that if you guys are able to put away just a smaller amount sooner, it gives you more flexibility to spend your dollars on things that are really, really important to you, not only then, but also in the future as well, too.
Are there certain kinds of accounts that kids under 18 can invest in?
Yeah, good
Or their
question.
parents can invest in for them?
Yep. So there are accounts that we help parents invest in for kids under the age of 18. Some of them are investment accounts earmarked for colleges. Some of them parents like to set up that you guys can use on anything you want. There's also investment accounts to where if you are under the age of 18, but you still earn an income. So Zach, I'm not sure how old you are, but since you earn a paycheck and you earn an income, there are accounts that you can contribute to as well under the age of 18, as long as you have earned income. So that's a lot of what our team does is we sit down and we figure out, okay, what are your guys' goals, long-term and short-term? And if we were to help you save, what are the best accounts to save into based on your situation and what your goal is? And I don't know, Cami, are there parents on this call tonight? Perfect.
There are a couple, at least a few.
Yep. But any thoughts or questions around compound interest?
Does it sound like a good deal? Yeah. Start now.
Okay, so just like we can earn interest on money saved, which is good, We also can earn interest on money borrowed, which does not feel as good. So you can spend money that you don't have by borrowing someone else's money. This is called debt. When you have debt, you can have debt by having a credit card, you can have a loan, you can borrow money from others. But when you spend other people's dollars, you have to pay back more times than not, you have to pay back more than you borrowed. And that is also called interest. So for example, if I wanted to purchase, let's say, a new TV for my home, but I have no money to spend, I can go get a credit card, which allows me to borrow money as long as I promise to pay it back. So I go to Target and I buy a $200 TV on my credit card. Because I borrowed that money, they are going to charge me interest. So when I pay the credit card back, I don't just pay $200, I have to pay $236. And that basically is a thank you for letting me borrow their dollars. Over time, if I don't pay that $200 back, it's going to keep growing. So if I don't pay it back and let's say a year goes by, that $200 I might now have to pay back is closer to $500. And so it's really important that we make sure that we manage how much we borrow and when we pay it back.
And credit cards can be very handy if you are smart about it and you make sure to pay them back on time. Like we like to use credit cards, but we do like the cash back program, or where when I pay my bill every single month on time, I don't have to pay interest and I don't have to pay late fees, but they'll give me points back that I can redeem. Like right now we have a credit card that has over $2,000 that we can get cash back on. We have another one, like I got to go to Amsterdam for $99 because I had spent money on credit cards and I had paid off my bills on time. So it racked up a bunch of points. So then I got to use those points to travel. But if I don't pay them on time, then so what if I have the points? Because it's still costing me so much more money. That 18% continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's where I think it's like 46% of Americans are in credit card debt or something like that. Maybe it's even higher than that. And so you have to be really careful with credit cards that you pay them off.
Yep. Yeah. And same goes for other debt. So another example, like throughout life, you're probably going to need to have debt. Student loans, a mortgage, truck and trailer. But it's just making sure that you have a strategy around how and when you're going to pay the dollars off. So for example, I graduated from college in 2016, where I had $25,000 of student loan debt. So I didn't have $25,000 in savings, so I borrowed that money from the bank through student loans. The bank allowed me to borrow this money if I promised to pay them $250 per month for the next 10 years. So $250 per month for 10 years is $30,000. But remember, I only borrowed $25,000. So the $5,000 that I have to pay the bank is that thank you or that interest for them letting me use those dollars. And so I don't want people to be totally scared of debt where they never purchase their trailer or the horse that they want, or don't buy the dream home they want or acreage, but rather how do we make sure that it's manageable and we have a strategy around paying it off with the short-term and the long-term implications in mind too.
Okay.
Any
Questions,
questions?
thoughts, feelings around debt or credit cards?
Is this making sense? Kind of a nice breakdown to understand things. And this is like you could replace college with a horse, if you wanted to buy a horse, you can replace her example with whatever is, or a saddle or anything like that.
I have a question.
Yeah, really.
If you borrowed $2,000 and spent all of that, how much would you owe?
if you borrowed 2,000 and then you spent it all on something?
Yeah.
Yep. So you would own $2,000. And if
Mhm.
you don't pay it back right away, you might own a little bit more than $2,000. So you might have to pay $2,000 plus some extra money on top of it.
Ah,
And part of the reason that they do that is because that's the risk that the bank is taking by giving you that money because you might not pay it back. So they have to make sure that they make a little
Yep.
bit of money off of that because you're risky to them.
Yep. Any other questions up to this point? Otherwise, I'm going to shift real quick here on some last minute stuff that if any parents are on the call, a lot of times we talk through with parents just around financial planning and some ideas there. Nothing else? Okay. Okay, so the last couple things that I wanted to make sure we talked about, especially since there was such a wide variety of ages on this call, was to leave parents with some items at the end here. So what can we do as moms and dads to not only create well-rounded individuals, but also help them along the way? And so one of the first recommendations is just starting the money conversation early. Start by showing kids how your budget keeps your household running. It's a great opportunity. You know, what Cami had you guys walk through with those budgeting worksheets, how much goes into raising horses, doing the rodeo runs, and everything in between. You know, I think it's nice to be able to tie it towards experiences and hobbies with the kids. The second one is providing opportunities for them to earn money. So making our own money can help us understand the value of a dollar. When I was younger, it really put into perspective, like how many hours do I have to work if I want to go out and go on this trip for the weekend? Or if I want to purchase a new saddle, how many hours do I have to work? It helps put things a little bit more into perspective. And then also help open accounts. So even savings accounts, checking accounts, debit cards, giving them opportunities to help them start managing their money. And then going back to credit cards, you can add children 13 years of age and older as authorized users on credit cards. So what this does is it will help build their credit scores in the event that they need to go out and borrow money for a loan. Keep in mind, though, that what you do as a parent with your credit cards will definitely impact the children. So making sure they're paid off monthly, like Camry said, and you're being responsible with them, but that can help children start to build a credit score so that when the time comes that they do want to, you know, go out and get that truck loan, they have a credit score that the bank will approve.
And like as she's talking about your credit score, that could be pretty important. Like I had taken out a couple of loans when I was in high school and paid them back quickly to try to build my credit through the bank. And I told the bank that that's what I was doing before I did it. But what I didn't realize is that the bank that I was at didn't report your credit score. So when I went to go buy my first truck, here I was, I'd taken out a couple loans, and I'd paid them off within a short amount of time so that I could build my credit. And when I went to go buy my truck, they said, you have no credit. So also like that's where credit cards can come in handy because you know that credit cards are keeping track of your score. Or if you're going to take loans from the bank, make sure that your bank is reporting your credit score because not all banks do.
Yep. And for the kids on the call, what a credit score is that when you want to go and get a loan to borrow money, the bank wants to know how well you are at paying back loans. But if you've never had a loan before, they don't have any history. So they don't know, oh, is this person going to pay back the loan? Are they going to be responsible or not? So then it ends up being this circle of where I can't get a loan to create a credit score, but I don't have a credit score to get a loan. And so at being able to be an authorized parents, as long as they have good credit, kind of helps build that so you can avoid that. Couple other items is just setting clear expectations of what, once we transition from high school to college, what are students and kids going to pay in college? Are you going to help them with transportation if they do the college rodeo? What is it going to look like if they take a horse with them? Those types of things. And then the other thing on here that we talk a lot about with our clients, which is not something that we set up, but we do recommend it, especially with our clients that have student athletes and rodeo athletes away in college, is getting a healthcare power of attorney set up. So the reason for this is because, as we all know, rodeo is not the safest sport. And if we have a child over the age of 18 that gets injured states away, we might have to have financial or medical decisions made for them. And in order to do that, sometimes they request a healthcare power of attorney. So that is something that we bring up to our clients to consider to get set up, especially those individuals that have children going to out-of-state schools.
Yeah, and if your parents aren't listening to this, these are conversations that you can ask your parents about too. Like, you can instigate these conversations as well.
Yep. And the last one is to, just as a parent, and I'm not sure how many parents are on this call, but even for children, think about how you were raised around money and how does that impact you today? Were finances discussed in your house or were they avoided? Do your parents have a financial plan? Or are you the financial plan? And I ask a lot of my parent clients, if someone were to sit down and ask your children that same question 20 years from now, what or how do you want them to respond? And so just starting these initial conversations and really involving them in finances can kind of help figure out what's the game plan for our family moving forward, but also have them really confident around money earlier on.
Mm-hmm. And that is really important. Like, my parents, they taught me some about money, but not a lot. Like, I really wish they would have had more conversations with me about it. Like, I paid my own entry fees. I had a job, but I didn't know about investing and like really saving and stuff. And those are things that I've had to learn later in life. And like, luckily my husband's really good at that kind of stuff. And so he's actually taught me a lot. Like, my sister married somebody and they have completely different ideas of money. And so just that conflict and that the different ways that they were raised can add a lot of confusion. So if you can kind of have those conversations early on so that you know where you stand, what you think, how you're going to spend your money, that is going to be a huge advantage for you. And also, like, when you understand how to spend your money in advance, and you know that you have the money saved, you know that you have your safety net, you know that you have all of those things in order. When you go back in the box, you don't have to worry about money being tight. You don't have to worry about where your next meal is going to come from. You don't have to worry about how you're going to pay for that next tank of gas because you've already prepared for that. And maybe you'll still go through a phase here or there that will happen. Like, we're humans and we rodeo and stuff. And so that emergency fund might get drained for a minute and you might have to scramble around, but at least you had the emergency fund when it happened so that you could still go on the road after the emergency and you weren't sidelined in the middle of making it to when you're like winning your year-end series, or you're pro rodeoing or you're college rodeoing and your good horse gets hurt. Well, all of your money isn't gone and you don't have to stay at home because you have made a plan to where you can still go, even though your emergency fund was drained, because it didn't drain all your other funds.
Yep. Yeah. And just kind of going back to, just rodeo as a sport, I can count on my hand the number of times we were headed somewhere and we had the truck breakdown and we're just like scrambling, trying to figure out where to get it fixed, how to pay for it. Same with horses. You go out and you catch a horse and one comes in and they're lame or they have a cut that we got to call the vet for. So things happen. And that's really just making sure, hey, do we have a plan around our money so that we don't have to take a step backwards when we know that things probably won't go 100% of the time the way we want them to, which is really the goal. And so really, I would just encourage you guys, start those conversations with your parents. If you have questions about money, start asking them, kind of figure out, hey, when did you guys start really diving deeper into your overall financial plan? how are you guys planning and allowing us to go out and do these hobbies that we enjoy to do? And so on and so forth. And if they have questions too, we're always happy to sit down with them, have a conversation, answer them. And even you guys as well too. If you guys have any questions about anything, fire away, shoot us a call, shoot me a call, and email. Camry's got our contact information, but we will take care of you. We will guide you in this space, and make sure you guys feel confident around it.
And for those of you who are Rodeo Kids ambassadors on here, like that contract that Zach was talking about, like you can fill that out and it's kind of open-ended. So you can make that about money if you want, and you can really incorporate that into it. But I highly, highly, highly recommend making sure that you sit down with your parents and go through that. Okay, any questions? You guys got money all figured out now? So you're all going to be millionaires soon. And then you can save and you can invest and you can spend and you can even give a little bit back to Rodeo Kids so we can give away some scholarships and stuff, right? Because you're going to be millionaires in no time.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. That was really good, Lexie. And great job keeping it simple. I feel like that was really easy to understand. What do you guys think?
Eve, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
But okay, so I know this is not super ideal, but as far as good short-term investments, and I know you kind of talked about it too.
Yep.
But I'll be going to college in about 1.5 years, and I don't have that time to let my money grow with compound interest. But I was wondering what would be good to put my money into right now. I've talked about putting it into let's say feeder cattle, for example. You buy a couple feeder cattle and then they'll be ready in about 1.5 years. But there's just animals kind of make me a little nervous because so many things can go wrong with them.
Yeah. Sometimes they can be a little bit risky, just like investing in the stock market. So that is one route that we have a lot of students go. They might show 4-H or have a couple cattle and go that route. If someone is not comfortable doing that, another really good option besides savings would be a high yield savings account. So with high yield savings accounts, your dollars are still safe like a regular savings account, but some of them you can actually earn interest on right now, somewhere in the 3 to 5% range. And so sometimes your local bank will have a high yield savings account you can set up. Otherwise, I can definitely shoot you an email to Eve if you have additional questions, and I can send some resources your way of hey, if you want to set money aside in an account for more of the short term, where are some other options for high yield savings accounts? But a lot of times banks will have something like that where your dollars are still safe, but you can kind of earn a little bit more than if they were sitting in a regular bank account.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in reaching out to you later after this call.
Absolutely, yeah. Shoot me an email or a call, either way. Any other questions at all about what we covered? Yeah.
Laura, do you have any questions?
No questions, but it was good. It was good information. Some things that I just didn't think about for sure. That healthcare, POA, I wouldn't have even thought about that, honestly. So even though that wasn't totally money related, that was a good thing. And what else did I feel like I wrote down? Oh, I didn't think about that, adding Zach as a card holder. He obviously just takes one of our cards with him. A lot of times after work, he'll stop.
Yep.
Or if
Drugged by CCP Facer.
Kill all niggers, niggers, niggers. Kill all niggers, niggers, niggers.
Drugged by CCP Facer.
Kill all niggers, niggers.
I was afraid of that.
I was like, I don't know what happened.
That's what happens sometimes when you put it on. Gosh darn it. We're going to have to exit out of it. Oh, no, we're good.
Oh,
Okay.
Good.
Okay?
I've
Sorry
never had that happen before.
Yeah, when you put
what
it
did
on,
I do?
That's why I try not to put it on Facebook until like the last minute, because I've had that happen on a Pony Pro Zoom with like the little kids. And it was really inappropriate content that some hacker started posting. Like they take over the Zoom and there's like nothing you can do about it.
Oh no.
So
No.
yeah, so that's a lot of the reason, like why for the ambassadors, like we have our group discussions page where I try to post links and stuff, and I do that like
Yeah.
with the Pony Pros because it's and now like there's like been 6 people in the last minute to 2 minutes that have tried to log on to the Zoom.
Oh no.
That's
Yeah.
wild. That is wild.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
for
Laura,
future
if you, adding Zach as an authorized user, especially if he's already using your guys' cards, as long as you have good credit, that kind of helps him build a credit score. So when the time comes, he doesn't have to like jump through all the hoops to try and have a credit to get a loan and then not get a loan because he doesn't have credit. It ends up being kind of a frustrating ordeal.
So how do they differentiate that with him? Like if he just has our card, like a lot of times he'll do it, like if he's obviously at work and he needs to pick up the feed for the horses, like he'll just have our card, obviously. So he does it. But if we're adding him and it's under his name, how does that work to where they see the difference in the score for him as a user, or does it kind of like a combination?
So the card is still under your guys' name. As an authorized user, it'll just be his name attached to it, and I believe like his social security number. And so it's almost like the management of the card is just giving him points, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So it's not like they're tracking how is he using it versus how is you guys are using it, but it's like, hey, how is the credit score or how is the parent's credit linked to now Zach?
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I think if you go on like your credit card's website, they should have an option for you to add authorized user.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That was a good thing. So I'll check into that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else? Does anybody have
Another
anything that
question.
they're going to go talk to their parents about now? Some conversations that you can have with your mom and dad? Yeah.
I have another question for Lexie, if that's okay.
You bet. Fire away.
So, you talked a lot about credit cards, and I was in a financial class last semester too, so I know a little bit about the credit cards, and but I wanted to see your take on the debit cards, though.
Yep. So I personally use a debit card more than my credit card, but I think it comes down to preference too. So how a debit card works is that it's going to be linked to your bank account. So if you have no money in your bank, you're not going to be able to use it. And every time you swipe it, it's just going to reduce how much money is in your bank account. Versus a credit card, you're borrowing money and then you have to pay it back. And so with debit, I have some clients where they use their credit cards for everything because just like Camry, they like to build points. They can use those points and they're just really diligent at paying it off per month. Whereas me, even as a financial advisor, I'm like, you know what? I probably will get sidetracked and forget to pay it. So I'm just going to use my debit card and I don't have to worry about it. And then I only use my credit card for business purchases or big purchases. And so there's good and bad with both of them. I would just encourage you to maybe test both. And if you find that it's really hard to manage the credit card, maybe lean in more to the debit card because you know you can only spend the money that you have.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that will just like, they'll put all of their fuel on a credit card and that's it, just fuel. And they might get a credit card that, like there's some that have travel points. So like if you swipe it for fuel, you get more points back anyway. So that can be a really good thing. And just picking out specific things that you're going to put your credit card towards. That way you're not overloading yourself with your credit, everything on your credit card, because you can get into a lot of trouble really fast with a credit card too.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're right at an hour, so that was perfect. And yeah, this was awesome, Lexie. Thank you so much for this information. And I hope that you guys all feel like you at least have some knowledge whether you are prepared to start applying it right now or just apply it in the future. It's still really good stuff to sit down, tell your parents about it, come up with a plan, and start early. Because the sooner you start, the more you'll make.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, let's all give Lexie a round of applause and tell her thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I was happy to be here and kind of start the experience for you guys.
Yes. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye, guys. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Night. Thank you.